Hello and welcome to YALI Podcast KE. My name is Fred Tunya, and there's no better way to introduce one of those amazing talents that we always come through with in this podcast.
And there's me, the famous Esther Neema.
Welcome to Deep Analysis. This is your program that comes to you each and every weekday, and what we try to do is look at some of the very trending topics across the globe and provide the deeper analysis. Absolutely. This morning we have some guests in studio.
Yay! Amazing. It's warm in here today.
How do you feel?
I feel graced. I feel really happy. As you can see, I'm really smiling.
It's a Monday, and I'm wondering where's the smile coming from?
Joy.
How was the weekend?
Joy comes in the morning.
Yeah.
The weekend was great. A working weekend, actually. I spent a lot of time doing manual labor, and maybe that's why I'm really happy being here today.
Look here, I thought you went for the WRC, the World Safari Rally that were happening over the weekend.
No, I was not part of that. Were you?
No, I wasn't. I thought you were, with the big smile.
I didn't go. I wouldn't be looking this clean, would I?
Yeah, I'm telling you, all dusty, but of course the dust for the fun.
Yeah.
So today we have some guests in studio, and I don't have all the power to introduce them. Perhaps I give them the chance to introduce themselves. But again, I feel I should just mention where they're coming from, and they do the bigger introduction. We have Steven Susens in studio this morning. Oh my God.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's so great to be here. I came all the way from Washington, where I am the Senior External Relations and Communications Officer for YALI and for the Africa Bureau's Education and Youth Division. And it's such a pleasure because this is my very first time to Kenya, my very first time to Africa, and I've just enjoyed it so much since 12 o'clock last night when I landed.
No way.
And here I am, very first thing in the morning, meeting all of you and the YALI alumni, and it's just been a fantastic morning all the way around. So thank you for being here.
Steven, welcome to Kenya.
Thank you.
Welcome to Africa.
Thank you.
And perhaps you'll share with us the experience so far you have. We have Mark Nyongesa. So Mark is here in studio with us. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Fred, and thank you, Neema. My name is Mark Simiyu, as leaded by your host, Fred. I'm the communication specialist for YALI Regional Leadership Center, East Africa, Nairobi. And also I'm a proud alumni, cohort 3.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
Looking forward to this conversation.
Brilliant. So the guest in studio here, the bigger picture of what YALI is. Of course, you know YALI is a signature effort of the US government to invest in the next generation of young African leaders, and of course we are here as the African leaders. We kickstart our conversation this morning, Mark. Apart from adventure and apart from the good work that you're doing, what more at the very point when you landed in Kenya excited you more?
Oh, well, I tell you, I think it was the very first phone call that I got, and saying that the car is ready to pick me up and that the adventure was already starting, and that I would come right to a communications and media hub, which of course is my background as well. I've been in communications for a long time, and to meet some of the alumni that are working so hard to not only work in their own jobs or their own entrepreneurial businesses, but to actually take that and celebrate YALI alumni across the nation, across the region, across the continent. I think that's very important, and also meeting the alumni chapter chairman and the great work that's being done there. I've literally been awake for probably 5 hours, and the energy level is already shooting through the roof. It's fantastic, and this is exactly what I'd hoped when I first talked about doing this trip. This is exactly what I had hoped that I would do, is meet the alumni and meet all of you guys and be able to support you in your work and get that out there, because we're doing a lot in Washington to help, and I'll get into that a little bit as we continue.
speaking of support, we all want to hear what kind of good news is coming all the way from Washington. We understand that YALI is today. YALI even passed through the Congress, and it was one of those bills that passed, and YALI is now becoming a department on its own in the State Department.
Well, we're working on it for sure. The Mandela, as you know, there's several aspects to YALI. There's the regional leadership centers that we have here on the continent that USAID is a huge part of, and then the State Department also has the Mandela Washington Fellow, which actually this kicks off their week and the upcoming summit that 700 new fellows are there in Washington, and that's all part of it. And it's a fantastic exchange program. But I think the RLCs are really, it's certainly my focus with that is that we reach so many others on the continent that are having such an impact. And what we're trying to do back in Washington is to support that even further, to have more recruitment, have more engagement with the YALI alumni, but also work on where are the alumni. I think a big part of this too is that tracking where people are and what those leadership roles are is very important, because then once we get all that information, we could support even more and be able to help with those leaderships and bring in more partners like Dow, MasterCard Foundation. So many of those partners who play such a big role in the success that YALI's already been. I think this is it's such an exciting time to be part of this initiative, and having only been there for 6 months, it's even more exciting for me because I get to tell the stories. I get to do all that.
Let me bring Mark on this conversation. Mark has been part of the story for quite a very long time. One, as an alumni; two, as now a staff at the RLC, the training hub; and third, as someone who's traveled across the country meeting alumni and tracing each and every location where these alumni are. Mark, what stands out in your daily work whenever you meet alumni and when you're telling their story?
Thank you, Fred. I want to start by saying that YALI is a family. That stands out very family. When you travel across East Africa, you meet a YALI alumni. Alumni are hosting fellow alumni. They are collaborating. They are doing things. They are having synergy to transform their communities with their different initiatives. Let me start with Nora Magero, who just won the African Innovation Engineering Award with the Vaxibox. And she has been featured widely, the BBC, CNN, even our local media. And the other week she was in Naivasha.
In Naivasha, the Clean Energy Conference.
Exactly, which was convened by Kengen. So you see, like that Vaxibox innovation, that is just a unique innovation. And she's not working alone, she's collaborating with fellow alumni. Look at Amani Katana in Mombasa, is convening a YEPI initiative, which is empowering entrepreneurs in the coastal region. And these youths are being equipped with the business skills, leadership skills, and is not only working alone, he's also partnering with fellow alumni. That is Biabi Shafi and others. And these youths are able to be empowered. And they even partner with the government, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. So these youths are not only equipped with the skills, but also with the ethics that is needed to run a business in an ethical manner, which is accepted. So one thing that stands out is YALI is a great family. Alumni are collaborating. There is cross-collaboration between the different aspects of YALI, which is business entrepreneurship, public management, and civic leadership. And they are transforming their communities.
All right. Before Esther comes in, I just want to shift away from the conversation of YALI, and I just want the general perspective of young people across the globe. Both of you have traveled the world. You work in the communications and PR industry, which definitely exposes you even more than anyone working in any other department or career like finance. I'd want to understand, traveling across the world, representing young people, what is this unique thing you feel young people possess or lack in your daily work? Not attached to YALI, but general experience of what you feel young people today in the contemporary society are faced with.
I definitely think there's an energy level, but I also think that there's a worldwide connection with certain issues. Climate change is certainly one of them that I think, you've got young people here in Kenya, young people in Pakistan, young people in Fossil New Guinea, to all over the place, where it's opportunities, I think, are abound, and USAID obviously is playing a huge role with that, because across the missions, you're seeing more and more young people that are engaged in this. I also think that the opportunities for young people to become part of technology, I think what you guys are doing, I think, is actually sets a model that others could do the same way. We now have information on a phone that can link you to any part of the world in real time. You could connect with people in Australia, you could connect with people in the Philippines, all while you're in a car, or and being able to share that information. I think being able to show them what's capable, what's being done. I think YALI, it's funny because you take YALI out of the conversation, it's still there in a lot of ways, because young leaders in Africa are doing the same thing that young leaders in Asia should be doing, or are doing. And the more you connect globally on those positive, aspects and different functions, I think the better the world becomes. You've got 75% of the population on the continent here in Africa that are under the age of 35.
Young people.
The same thing's true in Afghanistan, the same thing's true in Pakistan, the same thing's true in Turkey, China. So now that you can all be connected and you can share the information and share experiences, I think it's the opportunity to actually be leaders, not only on the continent but worldwide, is there. And the more we partner with different corporations or foundations and other things, I think there's certainly it could change the world. It's funny that you say I represent young people. I'm 57 years old. It's I haven't been called young in quite some time, but I feel it. But I certainly feel it. In fact, I'm gonna start dyeing my hair to get it a little bit more brown, to take the gray out or something, just because I want to be part of all that.
It's in the vibe. It's in the vibe.
That's exactly right.
Just feel it in here. Personally, I'm such a beneficiary of YALI, and it's done so much to just change our lives and move us forward from one step to another. And I love that you're talking about connecting people from all parts of the world and just understanding that we're leaders. But I guess the greatest leadership has been to allow us to discover our own leadership, isn't it? To just find our own space in, you become a very responsible citizen and in return translate that to the world, right? So now, just to ask you, what is the vision? Like, if you're looking 10 years from now, looking back for you guys as the leaders who empowered us to begin this journey and move forward, what are you looking at? What does success look like 10 years from now? What are you going to do with YALI, and what does success look like 10 years from now?
Well, in a lot of ways, I think success is the more people. I think part of our outreach is that we become more inclusive. Diversity is a huge part of this. Reaching out to communities that are underserved, rural areas. You see it in any country that you go to, in Asia or in Africa, South America. I think the idea of being able to, it's not just an urban thing, or it's not just like a select group of people or a class or that sort of thing. I think diversity is first and foremost, that 10 years from now, you really want more disabled, more people of different cultures, different ideas, and different innovations. Because I think when you start to realize that everybody's got contribution. Everybody's got, some way of contributing to the overall good of the world, of where we're going, and especially 10 years from now. I mean, we're talking 2032. It's hard to believe. It's just like, I read all these books and everything else. I'm like, wow, we're
believing in 2032.
Exactly. and what does the UN look like at that point? What do governments and when you start realizing like the conflicts that are right now in the Ukraine or things like that, where all of that could be avoided in so many ways, because it just doesn't, my hope, and I think part of this is the YALI idea of being able for young people to reach out and realize that there's ways around conflict, that you can resolve things that would be beneficial to everyone, and you're reducing that. The other thing is addressing health. I think and USAID, I think the overall programs that USAID has, infrastructure, health, education's another one that's massive. Get more and more people educated, bring up the literacy rates, and I think technology plays a huge role in that. And the more we explore what's possible, I think that's 10 years from now, let's see those literacy rates go up. Let's see mortality rates go down, especially when it comes to like maternal mortality rates and women's health. I think is definitely going to be one that needs to be addressed. But it's going to be those young people. It's going to be the YALI initiatives that drive that. Yep.
Would want to hear what Mark has to say.
And what you're going
Same
to do
question,
with
but now focusing on climate change. And perhaps what we see as education. Yeah.
Thank you, Fred. When you look at YALI, let me start with YALI was an initiative which was started like 2010.
Yeah.
Let's minus these 10 years without YALI. How does Africa look like? YALI is a novel cause that brought about young people from different diverse backgrounds. YALI, before maybe Fulbright and other scholarships which were just airlifting African students to go study overseas, YALI decided that they are going to have Africans sitting down amongst themselves, having discussions, having ideas and solutions to the challenges that they face as themselves. So they did not fail Africa to go and look for solutions. So design thinking was in place. You innovate with the people, you design with the people so that they get solutions themselves. You don't sit somewhere and assume that these people, they need food, and you bring food to them. And when you look at YALI that way, 10 years, the development that has come, and with my YALI was one of my major platforms that enabled me to interact with young people from all over East and Central Africa. I had never gotten to any other fellowship. And this is a true experience to most of these young people. So when you look at diversity, you look at social inclusion, you look at people who are underserved, YALI is reaching, because YALI does not discriminate in terms of even the level of education. We don't look at that. And that's why even in this other application, we are also including refugees, AGYWs, these adolescent girls and young women, and we are very heavy on that. So allow me to also comment on the climate issue, education, health. Look at young people from YALI like Yare Dabera and Khalid Mohammed in Ethiopia, who represented their country at national level at COP26 that last year. We have a young girl in Rwanda, Grace Ineza, who is she describes herself as a climate feminist, a green fighter. And they even wrote an open letter to the presidency of the Glasgow COP26, addressing the issue, like citing the challenges that they faced as young people. And even in Kenya, we have other young leaders from YALI who are addressing these issues of climate change, health issues, education, like Karen Wakoli of Emerging Leaders Foundation. These are YALI alumni. Yepi in Mombasa still, these are YALI alumni. We have initiatives. And even there is one in Garissa, Abdul Karim, who is actually empowering young people who are, if they are left, they will be married early as teenage girls, but now is finding solutions, alternatives to get even scholarships to empower these girls to seek education. So success to me in YALI is what these young people are doing. And even when we are documenting the stories, we can now even forecast what can happen in the 10 years to come, as you say, in 2032. YALI is a signature effort to invest in the next generation of African leaders. So in 10 years' time, we've already invested in these people. We'll start seeing the fruits
of our labor.
We'll start seeing our stakeholders where they put their money. Look at Uganda. This is, I think, cohort 7 or 11. Flavia Kalule, who is a woman MP in Kasanda district. And even the kind of campaign that she got from Kenya. I know Kevin Srandiek modeled a very good campaign for her in Uganda, and amidst the challenges that she faced, she won the MP seat.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that is what success looks like
That's
for me.
amazing. Even in our cohort, we had a lady who became an MP. She was in our cohort and she ended up being an MP. And you know, such
Amazing.
Stories just,
Brilliant. All right, we're going to take a short break, and then once we're back, I think we only have 3 alumni in studio, random. So that also to save on time, that will be the chap who we have the pleasure to have today with us, and then we have Calvin, who is in studio with us, as well as Mr. Boniface. So definitely they have a chance to share or ask us to a question around climate change, around young people in technology, around health and gender inclusion, and perhaps any other very interesting question that they may have, so that we wrap up. You've been listening to the Deep Analysis with me, Fred Tunya.
And the famous Esther Neema.
Definitely the famous. We take a short break. We'll be back. All right, welcome back to YALI Podcast KE. It was a short, brief break, but definitely we're back to be listening to Fred Tunya and Esther Neema, the famous
And
one.
Esther Neema, the famous.
Definitely. And you're listening to the Deep Analysis coming to you every single day on weekdays, definitely from the 7th floor of Oracom Studios right here in the heart of the capital, Nairobi, at Oracom Studios. And definitely there's no better way to, enjoy the fact that we have our guest in studio today, Steven Susens, communications and PR experts working now with USAID, and of course we have Mark Nyongesa, who is one big brother, who is a communication specialist and runs everything and anything about the visibility of this program, and we are super proud of your work. This moment is for Benfos Nyalual, who is an alumni and doing amazing work here in Kenya.
Thank you very much for having me today. So I think earlier on during the break, speaking about climate change, and I think talking about supply chains, which is the space that my company is in. But I really want to ask a question that's linked to the work we do. So in Africa, I think the biggest chunk of the population also falls under the population we would consider vulnerable in each industry, okay? So for example, agriculture, we would consider small-scale farmers who are the vulnerable in that space, even though they provide 70% of the food we consume here. If you talk about the labor force, again, the largest chunk are the ones who are also having challenges. But as far as it goes in terms of the young population in Africa being built in the in the technology age or the internet age, how do you think that young people need to plug into that opportunity presented by this digital age, while at the same time realizing that the population that we serve that is vulnerable also lacks certain tools to be able to fully enjoy the benefits of different initiatives they build, and whether that's within YALI community or any other leadership program, to just match with the needs of the people? So I think I'll start with Mark, and then yes.
Thank you, Boniface. Let me start by saying that we have been focusing on organizations and companies to harness the African demographic dividend. But let me also challenge the youths to harness this demographic dividend themselves. Because as Esther Neema said, in the next 10 years, what will success look like? let's harness the demographic dividend as youths. We harness this by that time, it will be, most of these young people will be leaders in various spaces. And with technology, you can be able to mobilize resources. As we have seen previously, young people are able to mobilize resources. They're able to use even the IoTs, the Internet of Things, to address basic challenges at their local levels. Prior to COVID-19, there was a TED Talk which went viral about the pandemic. And it was, in the video, it was Bill Gates, who was questioning the preparedness of the world in terms of if there is a pandemic like a bio something that comes in, how is the world prepared? Myself, in terms of climate change, I would also ask that question: how are we prepared as a world or as Africa if there is a heat wave that will sweep across Africa? Are we prepared? So we need such kind of forum to ask these questions. And then when we ask these questions, we just tap into what we learned in YALI. Then how might we be able to prepare for this pandemic that is not seen, but it might come?
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the question, Boniface. You know, when I look at this, and this is like a more global, response, and I think companies to partner with public entities and give opportunities and resources and tools to young people is a necessary part of that. There are so many corporations now that have their corporate responsibility work that they're doing that focuses on climate change, that focuses on value change, that focuses on getting more and more young people involved in that. And I think the more we embrace those partnerships or create those partnerships with public entities, and I think that's something that USAID is certainly looking to do. We've got a new partners initiative that's part of our overall USAID strategy, and that new partners initiative looks for those opportunities. Because again, I think you have to work together. You can't really just rely on a government entity. You can't really rely on. We've seen where that has gone because it's limited. But again, when you talk about populations that are under 35 years old, and certainly Africa is one of those, it's major things. So getting corporations, technology corporations, and it's not just like solar, panels or other things. It's awareness. It's, using the opportunities and the technology that is there to do those things. There's innovations all over the place. We see one of our alumni now with a refrigerator that's solar powered that delivers, vaccines and other, pharmaceuticals that is so needed. But again, this is an innovation. And when I look at this, it's like, well, nobody's come up with this, but here is a very sharp person, intelligent-wise, so let's find a partner for her that we can expand that, And again, solar power. What can we do to build more and more of those innovations? And that's just one example. There's probably thousands of them across the continent that are YALI grads that are coming up with these things, more and more of those things. We found a woman in Mozambique that is cleaning up the shoreline with plastic and making prosthetics for amputees. And and it's working. And she's got 700 clients in Mozambique and in Angola right now. And a YALI graduate. So again, I think the more you plant the seed and you partner with private entities, and we all have to work together. It's just it doesn't work if we're not. So.
Right.
Great. Thank you so much. Once again, I'm Linus, and just a follow-up question as the chairperson, the country chairperson for YALI. In one of your conversations, what you brought out was. The best thing we can do, it's to do the tracking for these alumni. That it's now after the training, after undergoing this, intense training, then what next from there? Because currently in Kenya, we're having about 1,600 alumni. And from where I sit, over 70% of these alumni are doing great work in the communities. And but so far only a few percentage maybe of these alumni probably reached out for documentation of their success stories. And we still have a huge number that remain unheard of their success story they are doing. And as a chapter leadership, many a times we interact with these alumni day to day, and here we are today. And one of our goal is, to ensure that their success stories are highlighted, and that is where even this podcast is coming in, just to ensure that we are bringing them to share their success story, and it can be outside there, to the world. And here you are today, seeing this kind of podcast that we put together, and the kind of work we're doing. So my question would be to you, now from where we're seated today, from the interaction we've had, maybe what kind of support from where you seated do you think we can gauge from you or from the USAID? And number two, how best would you advise us? Now you've seen what kind of stuff we're doing. Maybe how best can we make our podcast and other initiatives we've mentioned about in terms of reaching out to alumni, bringing them here, recording or airing their success stories. Maybe how now best, from whatever we've already shared, what could you advise as how best can we continue to engage and make our podcast better? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start by saying that the alumni chapter of Kenya, you are doing a tremendous job. You are the best setter in the region. And even in our other meetings, we've always suggested to other chapter leaders to come and benchmark, to learn from the best practice that you guys are doing. And congratulations for doing that. I think one major area is to empower the chapter so that it can be able to map, document, disseminate, and publicize the alumni initiatives. Because when we empower you as a center to have that kind of collaboration, when we are doing documentation, we don't just go to the field alone. At least we get a team from the chapter, because you know where these alumni are, you know their stories, like what we are doing right now. It would have been very crazy to just meet the team leaders of the chapter, and Neema and the other people, they are not there. But the kind of collaborations that you have, that you are able even to bring other alumni to meet with the team, us here, that is very, very, very good. So the idea is to empower the chapter so that, and also collaborate with the chapter and other partners. The way he alluded to having companies like Dow, they're having their CSR, the corporate social responsibilities, which are specifically tailored around like sustainability, recycling, climate change, and all that. So you might find that alumni are having initiatives in those sectors. So by partnering with a company like Dow, we are able to actually highlight this story. The story will be disseminated further by the organization. So it will be a win-win situation. As much as we support Dow in their CSR, the alumni initiative is also being highlighted and is being given the visibility that is needed. Thank you.
One of the reasons I'm here is actually for that purpose, is to get out, meet the alumni, find ways that Mark and I can collaborate even more to get those stories out. We found similar circumstances in other places that I've been. When I was the DOC, and that's a Development Outreach and Communications Officer for USAID, I used to be that in Pakistan, and I got out there in 2019. It was right at the end of 2019. And I basically had 8 weeks on the ground that I went out and visited the media, the reporters and everything else, and then COVID hit. So 2020 happens, and it's about March, and suddenly I'm in my apartment, and I can't go anywhere, I can't do anything. I've got no way of getting the stories out. And so it's a similar type of situation in a way, and I'll tell you why. The more I learn about your alumni stories, the more opportunities I find to have products that Mark and I can kind of work on to get those stories out. One of the things I did in Pakistan was to do more interactive social media. And part of that is in March 2020, the Facebook page for the USAID Facebook page in Pakistan maybe had an average of 20,000 views a month. Of people that would come on and check it out. A year later, we were at 1.7 million. So part of that is finding ways and tools and resources and interactions that you can actually engage your alumni, others that want to, and this is part of it. It's not just the alumni, it's others that want to engage with the alumni. It's the, it's the finding those partners and working together with them. I think the other part is to start working with the other RLCs and coming up with a combined communication strategy that all of us are sharing, that we could, it's not just the stories there, but it's how these alumni here in Kenya or in Uganda or in West Africa or in East Africa are looking to collaborate with their alumni brothers and sisters in other RLCs. There's so many examples of people that partner. It's not just partnering with Dow, it's partnering with the other alumni, and then the more you're doing that, the better it is. You guys have set a precedence. The podcast is something that I want to encourage in the other RLCs, because again, you're highlighting these things, and the more we get private sector or other people to listen to it and say, oh, here's an alumni that's doing something, let's talk to them. That's where I think that brings out, you can blossom that a lot more. So, but hopefully that answers the question. I'm always so unsure about that. Okay.
All right, thank you. I think we have deeply analyzed some of these issues that we have been having a conversation, and I think I want to thank you all for really being so passionate about us having this particular conversation. And Mark has really highlighted some of the stories that we have had across the country and even outside the country in terms of what the young African leaders are doing within the YALI platform. And at the podcast, I think we have had the conversation on how best we can progressively be able to be sustainable. And I think as our chair has mentioned, has asked about the sustainability plan. Maybe you can highlight in terms of where we are right now and what you guys are looking towards. In the future, where do you see this particular program going? And then, of course, also in terms of impact, there's definitely a lot of impact, and this particular podcast is looking into highlighting the stories which will in turn now show the impact and also be able to inspire other people to be able to come out with their stories and be able to do that. Then maybe the last question would be maybe your message to the young people within the YALI African leadership platform, and what you can encourage them to do in terms of their spaces and in terms of their programs they're doing.
Sustainability is certainly something that is first and foremost for everyone back in Washington, as well as I think the YALI program. It always has been. You see the success that's already been done. We have more than 22,000 people that have graduated in the YALI program. More than 22,000 alumni, and in a lot of diverse ways. It's fairly close between men and women. We're seeing a lot more diversity that is part of that. We're reaching out to different areas of the rural areas, people that underserved areas that I think could be part of YALI. And I think that's part of what the Biden administration is also looking at, is that they want YALI to keep going. It's the one program that I think kind of wide that is, there's no other example of it. You don't find this in Asia. You don't find it in other continents. You find it here. This is the prime example. So sustainability is it's a must. It has to go. And part of that is to explore new partnerships, to find ways that it's not only run by the alumni and sustained by the alumni, but the U.S. would always be a part of that as well. Whether it's be a part of whatever board of directors or how that is going to be finally agreed upon. I think that's exactly where we are right now in developing that sustainability working forward. The second part of your question?
I think the message that now you can tell the young people within the YALI alumni, and those of course who are the friends and who are looking into the space of inspiring and making a difference within Kenya and across Africa.
Well, right now it's you are running it. The funny thing is that it's like, well, are they the leaders? Well, of course they are. And as soon as you became part of the YALI family, of course you're the leadership. You are making that difference. And the more we're getting more and more people involved in it, the more it will be sustained. And my message would be work with our RCs, work with our RLC communications folks and the others to bring those stories to light, to help us bring your stories to light, because again, we're looking for other opportunities. Earned media, I think, is another one that's really that we're looking at. International media to bring more attention to YALI, get more people aware of it. Brand awareness is huge, and it certainly is on the continent. But let's expand that. Let's expand it to Europe. Let's expand it to to Asia to find more and more opportunities for them.
Brilliant. This is one conversation that we will, in the very time you're around,
Keeps going.
we'll keep sharing it and understanding.
You bet.
You're listening to Deep Analysis, and our time is up. Esther, what do you have?
I am so excited and I'm happy to hear from this amazing team that has come to see us and the sustainability conversation, and that we are actually on the right track. So I'm definitely very elated. And I don't know whether you have lunch for our guests.
Definitely.
Or you just are going to say
guests.
goodbye with air and stuff like that. Yeah,
Absolutely.
but really this was an amazing conversation. Thank you for making time to have this conversation with us, and can't wait for them to host us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, we'll meet tomorrow at the RLC for the big event. We look forward to meeting each and every one. Thank you so much, Steve. And thank you so much, Mark. Within your very busy schedule, you decided to create this as part of the bigger conversation to let everyone know that indeed there's even more in store for them. And even what we've done already, how then can we escalate and keep sustain what we've done already. Thank you so much. My name is Fred Tunya.
And I am Esther Neema.
You've been
The
listening.
famous Esther.
Yeah, the famous
Yes.
Esther Neema. You've been listening to Deep Analysis. You can find us on the Spotify. You can also find us on Apple Podcast. We are live on YouTube. That is YALI Podcast KE, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You definitely gonna find us there. How about we sign it out in the bigger way? It's the Deep
Analysis.
Thank you so much.